Andy.
I'm Amanda, and we'll be reviewing 1 Kings chapters 15 and 16.
Let's start with a quick recap of the current situation. Solomon's son, Rehoboam, led with greed and harshness. Under the leadership of Jeroboam, the northern tribes rebelled and formed a rival kingdom. In the south there was Judah, centered in Jerusalem, with the kings from the line of David. In the north there was Israel, whose capital was soon to be Samaria. Our chapters tonight recount the happenings through several different kings, 2 in Judah and 8 in Israel. It is interesting to note that while the kings followed the genetic succession in Judah, thus staying true to the line of David, the kings of Israel are often murdered and the entire lineage wiped out as a new king takes over. Another important distinction to make is the difference in the 3 characters with all very similar names. We learn about Jeroboam's son, Abijah, in the previous chapter. The prophet who was involved in that story was Ahijah. Now we meet Rehoboam's son, Abijam, the king of Judah. And to make things even more confusing, 2 Chronicles refers to him as King Abijah, the same name as Jeroboam's son, but a completely different person. Another interesting note to make while reading these scriptures is that the term slept with his ancestors means someone died a natural death, in contrast to the many times kings were assassinated for political gain. In these chapters, we see a lot of characters and a lot of repetition in the wrong way to lead God's people. We see prophecies from earlier come to fruition, and we meet new characters for the first time that will play a much larger role in chapters to come. We also see one prominent example of God clearly working in one man in the midst of all that is going wrong, showing the stability that can be brought about by one strong, godly leader, even if he or she is not perfect.
So at the beginning of chapter 15, we are in the 18th year of Jeroboam's reign in Israel, and a new king, Rehoboam's son Abijam, is crowned king in the southern kingdom of Judah. Now Abijam doesn't last long. He is just as bad, if not worse, than his father. Chapter 15, verses 3 through 4, reads, "He committed all the sins that his father did before him. His heart was not true to the Lord his God, like the heart of his father David. Nevertheless, for David's sake, the Lord his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem, setting up his son after him and establishing Jerusalem." While some believe the lamp in Jerusalem refers to Jerusalem's prosperity, others believe it refers to the continuation of David's line, eventually leading to the Messiah's birth, as a light during a dark and evil time in Judah. Once Abijam passes away, his son Asa succeeds him. Against all odds, the apple falls miles from the tree, and Asa is wholly devoted to the Lord. He removes the male temple prostitutes out of the land. He removes the false idols his ancestors had created. He even removes his own grandmother from her position of power due to her idol worship. But we see that Asa is not perfect. He allows the high places of the false gods to remain in the kingdom, and he takes money out of the temple to bribe the king of Aram, known today as Syria, to back him against Israel. But overall, Asa is a good leader. More importantly, he provides stability. While we see the northern kingdom of Israel go through 8 different kings and 5 different family lines, we see Asa rule for 41 years. We also see the line of David maintained in Judah, while that is certainly not the case in Israel, where family lines are broken over and over again.
Nadab, son of Jeroboam, reigns for 2 years before Baasha murders him and the entire house of Jeroboam, fulfilling the prophecy of Ahijah from the chapter before. Jeroboam's line is destroyed due not only to his sins, but also because of the sins he caused Israel to commit, thus provoking the Lord's anger. There was war between Asa and Baasha for all their days. Again, the Lord speaks through a prophet, this time Jehu, with a similar prophecy for Baasha's line as he had given for Jeroboam's line. Jehu prophesies that the Lord would consume the house of Baasha as he had Jeroboam. All of those from the house of Baasha who die in the city would be eaten by dogs, while all those who die in the fields would be eaten by birds. Just as Jeroboam slept with his ancestors, and this prophecy was enacted on his son and remaining family, Baasha dies of natural causes, and the force of the prophecy comes crashing down on his son Elah. Just as Jeroboam's son Nadab reigns for 2 years before Baasha kills him, Elah reigns for 2 years before Zimri, a commander of over half his chariots, conspires against him and kills him while he is drunk. The first thing Zimri does as king is kill all male friends and family of the house of Baasha, Elah's father. This destroys the house and line of Baasha, again fulfilling God's prophecy. Again, it is stated that this was done firstly because of the sins Baasha and Elah had committed, secondly because of the sins they caused Israel to commit, and thirdly because of the anger of the Lord that this had provoked, specifically idol worship.
Now, King Zimri wins the award that no one wants, the one for the shortest reign by a king in the Bible, only 7 days. Even though Zimri had been commander over half the chariots, he did not have the military support. They elect Omri as the next king of Israel. Omri and the military invade the city where Zimri was residing. When he sees what is happening, Zimri goes into the king's house and burns it down, committing suicide rather than being conquered by Omri. While there seemed to be unity in following Omri over Zimri, there was division on if the next king should be Omri or Tibni. Now, they war for several years before Omri prevails as the next king of Israel. Omri is responsible for fortifying the hill of Samaria and building a city on it. Samaria becomes the center of Israel. Omri rules for 12 years before he passes away. Both Omri and his son Ahab do evil in the sight of the Lord. Ahab marries Jezebel and begins worshiping and serving Baal. Chapter 16, verse 33 states that Ahab did more to provoke the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than had all the kings of Israel who were before him, which is really saying something. We will be learning more about this couple in the next several studies. The final verse is set apart from the rest of the story. During Ahab's reign, a character named Hiel rebuilds Jericho. Chapter 16, verse 34 says, "He laid its foundation at the cost of Abiram, his firstborn, and set up its gates at the cost of his youngest son, Segub." This fulfills the prophecy from Joshua 6:26. Some scholars believe this means Hiel's firstborn died when he started rebuilding Jericho, and his youngest son died as he finished. But others believe this means he sacrificed these children as part of the building process or ritual. Shockingly, this was a documented practice during these times. Archaeologists have uncovered cities with children's remains preserved in its foundations. Either way, it word for word fulfills the prophecy that Joshua spoke 500 years earlier regarding the rebuilding of Jericho.
Ultimately, we learn in these 2 chapters some important lessons through the experience of kings of Judah and Israel. But they also serve to set up characters who will figure prominently in much of the rest of both of the books of Kings. We read a story which seems just as well fitted to be a Hollywood movie script as it does a Bible story.